You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
And away we go. Episode 1123 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Thursday, July 31st, 2025. It is the final day of the month of July. It is the day of the 2025 MLB trade deadline. It is the day after Commanders team president Mark Klaus spoke at day 2 of a hearing conducted by the D.C. Council on the team's deal with D.C. for a stadium on the RFK Stadium site, what officially is the Robert F. Kennedy Campus Redevelopment Act of 2025. It is on Friday that we are to have a vote by the D.C. Council on the deal, though this would be the first of 2 votes by the Council on the deal. So this vote on Friday would not be the final vote in terms of approval of the deal. This whole process has been lengthy and tedious and complicated, but it does seem as if we're getting to what the team wants, a deal for a new stadium on the RFK Stadium site. I watched some of the hearing on Wednesday morning. Klaus was impressive. I like this guy. He in this hearing had great command, no pun intended, of the topics at hand. Here he was during a prepared statement.
From the first year of this stadium's operations, we project $1.3 billion in gross revenue, 57% of which will be net new to DC, and $800 million in direct spending. Our proposal includes investments in new affordable housing, improved parks and public spaces, hundreds of millions in new revenue for the district, a community benefits agreement, a commitment to small and local business partnerships, and youth sports facilities that will serve DC families year-round. Next, we're bringing the team home. RFK is our ancestral home. Generations of fans have lifelong memories of rooting for their team right here in the district. From thrilling playoff victories and 3 Super Bowl seasons to the roar of the RFK stands shaking under sellout crowds. Some of the most iconic moments in NFL history happened right here. I remember that iconic Monday Night Football shot where they showed RFK on the same axis as the Capitol, the Washington Monument, and the Lincoln Memorial. I know we all want that feeling back. We believe the team belongs in DC, and we're excited about the opportunity to return, not just to our roots, but to a future that honors the past while looking forward. This is about more than nostalgia. It's about civic identity, community pride, and restoring a historic connection between the team and the city it calls home.
Yeah, good stuff right there from Mark Klaus. He on Wednesday morning did well, and he on Wednesday morning wore a burgundy and gold tie. I did like that. Hello and welcome to this Thursday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. The Commanders on Wednesday afternoon announced the signing of unrestricted free agent offensive tackle Lucas Niang. He was taken by the Kansas City Chiefs out of TCU in the 3rd round of the 2020 NFL Draft, but he has not played in an NFL regular season game since the 2023 regular season. He takes the roster spot of of guard Nate Herbig. The Commanders early Tuesday morning announced having placed Herbig on the reserve/retired list. The Commanders on Wednesday afternoon also announced that their training camp practices on Thursday and Saturday now are 8 a.m. practices. This presumably due to the heat. Each of those practices is open to fans in some form. The team did not hold a full practice on Wednesday, and so we on this installment of the podcast, instead of doing our usual training camp report and discussion, instead have a guest, an outstanding guest, Warren Sharp of SharpFootballAnalysis.com. One of my favorite people with whom to speak. Warren is going to give us exceptional, advanced statistical analysis of the Commanders off his research on them for his book, The Sharp Football Analysis 2025 Football Preview. Warren's going to spend some time with us, and we're going to cover a lot of ground, including the Commanders' incredible fourth down offense in the 2024 season, the possibility of the defense generating more takeaways, the amazing play of quarterback Jayden Daniels, the impressive work of offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury, the significance of run defense in the current NFL, and much more. Prepare to get a whole lot smarter about our football team. The incomparable Warren Sharp. Next segment with a deep dive on the Commanders. And yes, I did say Commanders. Did you see or hear what Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show on Wednesday afternoon? He almost said Redskins. He caught himself and said Commanders, but he almost said Redskins. And the reaction was great. Here you go.
Yeah, they're like 10 more if you could, next 10 years.
I mean, everybody's 0-0 right now. There's 32 teams that feel like they can win a championship, but you guys know covering the game, there's only a handful of teams. I always say like 6 to 8, but it's really like 8 to 12 because there's some of those teams like the Commanders last year.
This son of a bitch.
I saw the sign. That's what got me. I was just talking to Ty about the San Diego Chargers playing. When you're as old as I am, you played in so many different stadiums and against different team names.
All right. There was a person in the crowd holding up a sign with the Redskins logo of the proud Native American warrior. But Aaron Rodgers, A-Rod, he almost said the R word. He almost said the naughty word, but he caught himself. Also on the show, we'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats, they on Wednesday afternoon announced a trade. They traded relievers Luis García and Andrew Chafin to the Los Angeles Angels for 2 prospects. And the Nats then got stomped. A 9-1 loss at the American League West, leading Houston Astros to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series. The O's, they on Wednesday afternoon lost to the American League leading Toronto Blue Jays 9-8 at Oriole Park at Camden Yards to end the Orioles' 5-game winning streak and to deny the O's a 4-game sweep, though 2 trade chips for the O's in first baseman Ryan O'Hearn and center fielder Cedric Mullins showcased themselves quite well. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Feedback on the Commanders and receiver Terry McLaurin still not having agreed on a contract extension from Troy Carl on X, off for conversation on Tuesday's show, episode 1121, off ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee show this past Monday afternoon, saying that he believes that McLaurin, quote, wants considerably more, end quote, than a $33 million average annual value, a $33 million AAV. Writes Troy, I hope Terry isn't really asking for north of $33 million a year. I think we would be forced to trade him if he isn't reasonable. Not sure if anyone else would sign him for that much. Thank you for that, Troy. That's an interesting question. What AAV would McLaurin command if he was on the open market, if he was an unrestricted free agent? I do think that he on the open market could command an AAV of $30 million to say $33 million, which is what I'd be willing to give him. But I'm not convinced that he on the open market could command an AAV of, quote, considerably more, end quote, than $33 million. And I do not think that the Commanders should give him an AAV of, quote, considerably more, end quote, than $33 million. Paying elite level money, and that's what considerably more than $33 million in terms of an AAV would be. Paying elite-level money to a receiver for a contract extension starting with his age 31 season, as would be the case with McLaurin, is bad business, even if you think that the receiver might age well. And he, to me, is a receiver who profiles as someone who should age well, but you never can be certain how a player will age. From Alan on X, writes Alan, If he wants considerably more than a $33 million AAV, that's nuts. He will be forced to play this year at $19 million and become just a name of another ex-commander thereafter. Thank you for that, Alan. Yep. Adam Schefter putting it out there that he believes that McLaurin, quote, wants considerably more, end quote, than a $33 million AAV. That has shifted the narrative in this Terry McLaurin situation. McLaurin on July 15th in that 32-plus minute session with reporters sounding off on his frustration with the Commanders in these contract extension talks, including calling what the team was offering him, quote, disrespectful, end quote. That gave McLaurin control of the narrative and made the Commanders look bad. But what Schefter said on McAfee gave the Commanders the control of the narrative and made McLaurin look bad. And that's why I do think that Schefter said what he said based on intel from the team. I think that the team leaked this to Schefter in order to push back on what McLaurin had said and to convey to fans and media members that McLaurin is being unreasonable. Now, also on Monday was the Denver Broncos signing receiver Courtland Sutton to a 4-year contract extension, what reportedly is a 4-year, $92 million contract extension. That works out to an AAV of $23 million. There has been a lot of talk about how the Sutton extension impacts the Terry McLaurin contract extension negotiations. I do think that this talk of this extension greatly impacting the McLaurin talks is overblown because McLaurin is better than Sutton and has been more productive than Sutton and has been more durable than Sutton. But the Sutton extension is underwhelming from an AAV standpoint, and he is entering his age 30 season, just like McLaurin is entering his age 30 season. So from those standpoints, yeah, the Sutton extension did not help the cause of McLaurin. Email from Redskins fan, writes Redskins fan, hey Al, enjoy the show. I listen to your podcast. Don't miss many. If you were Terry, how much would you want? Also, no matter how old he is, if he beats out the competition, hasn't he earned the pay? The team needs to pay Terry and stop being cheap. He has earned it for what he has already done and what he's going to do. Plus what others are going to sign for later and make more but not put in near as much work. Pay him because he sets the standard for others to follow. Pay him because he makes others better. Pay him because we need to show that we take care of our own. I realize that we're not the ones paying him, but I would if I owned the team. Thanks for listening. Thank you for the email, Redskins fan. I'm glad that Redskins fan mentioned that the Commander should pay Terry McLaurin for, quote, what he's going to do, end quote. That's why you pay an athlete big money, not for what he has done, but for what you believe he's going to do. McLaurin already has been paid for what he has done. From a club perspective, you can't be sentimental about paying someone for work that has been done. New contracts and contract extensions, they're not lifetime achievement awards. The NFL is a salary cap league. What you pay players matters. You as a team need to be smart about who you pay and how much. And so the overriding philosophy with new contracts and contract extensions should always be to pay the player for what you believe he will do, not for what he has done. And I do believe that Terry McLaurin is very capable of being very good for seasons to come. I would not pay him top of the market money. I would not give him an AAV well north of $33 million. But there is a price point at which McLaurin is fairly compensated and the team is comfortable. And hopefully the two sides arrive at that price point.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/bluewire. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/bluewire, spelled BABBEL.com/bluewire. Babbel.com/bluewire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Good to have you with us. Please consider subscribing to the podcast. If you're not already doing that, subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you. We on this podcast take pride in going in-depth on the Commanders on every episode, no matter the time of year. We on this podcast take pride in talking Washington, D.C. area sports from an analytics perspective, and we combine these two missions right now with one of my favorite guests. He is an NFL analytics pioneer. He is a man whose work I reference often. He is the great Warren Sharp of SharpFootballAnalysis.com, and he, for a third consecutive summer, is joining us to preview the Commanders' upcoming season. Warren, for years, has been doing groundbreaking work in NFL analytics. He is the author of an outstanding book, The Sharp Football Analysis 2025 Football Preview, nearly 600 pages of in-depth analysis and commentary on all 32 NFL teams. I cannot recommend this book enough. I learned so much from the book, especially regarding the Commanders, on whom Warren is about to give us high-level insight. You can get the book at SharpFootballAnalysis.com. You can follow Warren on X at SharpFootball. Warren, it is great to talk to you again. How are you?
I'm doing so good, Al. Look, and it's a fun time to be an NFL fan. It's a fun time to be an NFL analyst and cover the teams. Certainly happy to be done with this book. It's definitely a labor of love, as you mentioned, almost 600 pages. I'll go ahead and just tell everybody, yes, that is where you can go get it. You can go to sharp.football or sharpfootballanalysis.com. Either one will get you the right spot. But the book there is $29.99 for PDF. If you want it for just $1, simply enter the code Washington and it'll reduce the price down to $1. We've got 32 different team chapters, one on each team, obviously. And if you prefer to get the hard copy, we do have that up at Amazon for the printed 586-page book. But if you just want to spend $1, it's hard to beat this bang for your buck that you're going to get with this book.
Wow, that is a spectacular deal. Listeners of this podcast can get the PDF of the Sharp Football Analysis 2025 Football Preview at sharpfootballanalysis.com for just $1 by entering the coupon code Washington. Very generous offer from you to the listeners of this podcast. We thank you very much. I cannot imagine how much work you put into this book. I'm curious, when you begin formulating what you're going to write about regarding a team in its chapter in your book, like say the Commanders chapter, how do you approach that? What's your process? How do you sort through all the data in order to come up with what you want to write?
Well, the interesting part about a team like the Commanders is we saw them more recently than we've seen most teams because they made their trip all the way to the NFC Championship game. So we know a little bit more about them than we do some other teams just from a data sample size. But the first thing I do is I always look at how many games did they win or lose last year? What's their win expectation this year? And why did they win or lose those games last year? I totally trash the John Maddenism, you are what your record says you are, although I think that does factor into the futures market. It does factor into public perception of teams. But I like to cut against the grain and try to understand really was this team a 12-win team last year? What did they do that they may not be able to do in 2025 that's going to impact their ceiling? Because I think the Commanders were a team that, arguably speaking, and except from the defense aside, from a takeaway perspective, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point, really met their ceiling for a lot of these like upside outcomes of Jayden Daniels' rookie season. And as a result, what are we going to get out of them in 2025? And so I break down first and foremost was there any coaching changes? In this case, at the top, there was not. Then you go to, were there any key personnel moves? And we know, their draft, we know free agency, especially focused on the offensive line. And so that's going to be an impact for Jayden Daniels and his protection and hopefully his player health. And you're looking at all the other factors, from missed field goals to takeaways to turnovers to red zone performance to fourth down performance, which is obviously a key for the Commanders. So it's digging deep into the statistics. But first, I start from a very zoomed out perspective of the team. And I try to just go back and understand their season. And for some teams, I'm watching a lot more film than others. Fortunately, there's software and programs nowadays and websites that you can go to where I can easily watch, filter all the fourth down plays for the Commanders that were pass attempts. And I can just go and watch those. And it takes, 5 minutes to end up watching those, I think it was 8 dropbacks from Jayden Daniels on fourth down. So it's very simple to watch the film, which I do incorporate into this as well. And it takes a while. It takes, to do all 32 teams, I start probably late February, early March with this process. There are a couple of key flagpole tentpole moments that occur during that process. Obviously, you've got the draft, you've got a free agency, you've got the NFL schedule release, which I really focus on as well. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's interesting for a team like the Commanders, just in how great they were last year. And it's just, this is one of those teams where it's really difficult to try to determine, do we think they can exceed performance last year? Because theoretically, a rookie quarterback should do better in his second season in the NFL. But then what else happened last year that might regress? And bottling that all together is a process.
Do you view the Commanders as a major regression candidate for the 2025 season?
So I like two aspects to the team that I think are going to really help their upside in 2025. But there is one key that is a concern that could hinder their 2025. The key that could hinder them is their fourth down performance. Obviously, I've talked about this before, and I'm sure you've covered it on this show as well. But for people, because I'm going to retweet this and maybe new people are going to come in and they didn't hear you talk about this previously, the Commanders gained nearly 55 expected points, EPA, on 23 fourth down plays, which is ridiculous. That's mind-boggling. That's the most in NFL history. They had the highest conversion rate on fourth downs, converting 87% of them without a single hack, which is the quarterback sneak or tush push. And to convert 87%, when I went back and watched those 23 plays, I assumed that there were going to be quarterback sneaks in there, because how are you converting 87% without a quarterback sneak? And I was just shocked to not see a single true quarterback sneak in the mix. The 55 EPA that they gained, that was more than the Kansas City Chiefs offense gained on every single play they ran offensively last year, over 1,000 plays, which is, putting it in perspective, it's shocking. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. They gained more EPA on those 23 plays than 23 offenses gained around the NFL, including the Kansas City Chiefs. So, how are you going to replicate that? It's virtually impossible to. And the thing that Commanders fans need to realize, when you look back in hindsight, you think about the team, what you think about is Dan Quinn being a gambler, Dan Quinn being aggressive on fourth down. But the fact of the matter is, he didn't necessarily go for it more frequently, more often than his predecessor, Ron Rivera, or than the Commanders have done in the past. It was simply that they capitalized on those plays and they converted the first downs. As a result, if they enter 2025 expecting that same conversion rate, it's not going to happen. And what's inevitably then happens is those drives, which most of the time you're going for it on fourth down, you're in opponent territory. While you may have scored points on those drives in 2024, you're not going to in 2025. So how do you get to the same total points for the season? You're going to have to be much better on early downs. So that's one that I think is going to certainly regress, but I don't know that I would say it regresses to the mean, simply because I don't know the true upside of what Jayden Daniels brings to the table with this virtual reality and this cognize that he focuses in on. I do think that that's a factor in his quote unquote clutchness. It's hard to measure it, but it does seem like he's more and better suited for those moments with what to do and how to do it than some other quarterbacks are who don't use that technology. And so as a result, I do think that their floor is higher than league average, but their ceiling is not going to be 2025 level. One area that I think that could regress in a positive manner, though, for you guys to potentially help out a little bit is just what Dan Quinn was known for in Dallas. And in Dallas, Dan Quinn was known for the defensive takeaways. Yes, their defense was aggressive, and yes, their defense ranked high, but it was high from an EPA perspective because of all the takeaways they were generating. And the Commanders, from a takeaway perspective, ranked 20th in the NFL last year on defense. Now, we know that they didn't have a great defense overall. They ranked 25th. And as a result, with a poor overall defense ranking 25th and a defense that's not generating very many takeaways, you allowed points, you allowed opponents to have success. But the scary part is you played the fourth easiest schedule of opposing offenses last year, and yet you still ranked 25th defensively. So did they add enough this offseason to vastly improve that? Because they are going to play a slightly better schedule, slightly more difficult schedule of opposing offenses, specifically opposing quarterbacks. If we get to discussing the quarterbacks that they faced last year is ridiculous. But if they didn't add enough, which I don't think they did, I think that they added some pieces that will help. I don't think that it's enough, but where I think they can offset that is the takeaways. You know, when you get those takeaways and sometimes score points, Dan Quinn's defense, they were plus 10 or better for 3 straight years before he came to Washington down in Dallas in terms of turnover margin. That wins games for you. That statistic alone, there is no more important statistic to wins or losses than turnover margin. And if this defense can figure out a better way, now they understand Quinn's scheme a little bit better, to force more turnovers and to get those takeaways in some way, shape, or form, that absolutely is going to raise the floor of the Commanders in 2025 and will help offset the fact that I don't think their defense is improved enough on a down-to-down level to keep teams from driving into the red zone and scoring points.
Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels, his all-time great rookie season last season. What, from an advanced statistical standpoint, most impressed you about that season?
Well, for me, I think it's just some of the decision-making in the crunch time situations and his late game excellence. He delivered plus 0.33 EPA in the fourth quarter, which was the number 2 best in the NFL. And that alone, in my opinion, helped the Commanders go 8-4 in one-score games, 4-1 in games decided by the field goal or less. Everybody remembers those couple of games where they scored late and won, and obviously the Hail Mary against the Chicago Bears. But he was excellent in the fourth quarter passing the football. He was obviously excellent on fourth downs. These are very high leverage moments, and it's odd and unnatural for a rookie to appear visually so calm and then execute with such precision as he actually did. That is, having studied rookie quarterbacks for a long time now, that is unnatural, and that is really exciting if you're a Commanders fan. So I think that's the statistic, but it also can't be overlooked, the fact that this team was excellent at the beginning of games. From a game scripting and a scoring perspective, this team was tremendous. They led after the first quarter by 42 points collectively across 17 games. That was the number 4 biggest margin of any team in the NFL. They led by 92 points on average at halftime, which is also the 4th biggest margin. They need to ensure that they are calling games, and Jayden Daniels is, of course, executing efficiently early on with the game script and in those first quarters and in those first halves, because inevitably that really helps a defense as well. And so your offense is going to be a challenge. I show you guys having the number one biggest jump for competition in terms of the defenses that you're going to play from 2024 to 2025. I mean, yes, it was outstanding and tremendous and excellent what Jayden Daniels was able to do last year for the Commanders, whether it was building leads in the first quarter, whether it was executing number 2 best in the NFL in the fourth quarter, whether it was on these fourth downs. But let's just keep in mind that the Commanders played a down team in the Dallas Cowboys, a down team in the New York Giants, the NFC South, the AFC South, which had featured the Tennessee Titans as their opponent, which gave them the number 1 overall pick, a very bad Chicago Bears team that ended up firing their coaching staff, and an Arizona Cardinals team that still is trying to figure things out. Collectively, that ranked as the number 29 toughest schedule of opposing defenses that Jayden Daniels went up against. So that's the 4th easiest. This year, my current projections show that they will play the number 2 most difficult schedule of opposing defenses, moving from 29th to number 2. That is the biggest jump. Obviously, it sounds big. It's the biggest jump for any offense in the NFL for a strength of schedule of opposing defenses. So it's incumbent upon Jayden Daniels to have that sophomore jump, for Kliff Kingsbury to continue to stay creative offensively and not get too predictable at any point in time, because it is going to be a gauntlet this year from a scheduling perspective.
Much more with Warren Sharp in moments. Are you looking to upgrade the heart of your home? Whether it's time to repair your gas fireplace, modernize your hearth, or simply add more comfort and style, Nova Fireplace and Stove is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for heat, safety, and home transformation. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed, and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Nova Fireplace and Stove has a beautiful showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where your dream fireplace begins. Come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacement, and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Every job includes a free in-home estimate. And for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia and thus knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed because Nova Fireplace and Stove takes pride in every flame that is lit and in every customer who is served. So stop by the showroom, see what's possible, and let Nova Fireplace and Stove help you bring warmth, safety, and style to your space. You can also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship, and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home. We're talking Commanders with Warren Sharp of SharpFootballAnalysis.com. His terrific book, The Sharp Football Analysis 2025 Football Preview, is out. Nearly 600 pages of in-depth analysis and commentary on all 32 NFL teams. And listeners of this podcast can get the PDF of the book at SharpFootballAnalysis.com for just $1 by entering the coupon code Washington. We in the past have discussed some of the bad work by Washington offensive coordinators. What do you make of the work of Commanders offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury this past season?
Yeah, I definitely harken back to the early leads and their ability to start games fast, especially with a rookie quarterback. There is a natural temptation, Al, to bottle him up a little bit, to play not to lose, especially with a defensive-minded head coach. And that was my biggest fear for Washington. One of them entering last season is just, what's Jayden Daniels going to look like? How conservative might this approach be from Dan Quinn, who's a defensive-minded head coach? And if you look at the Commanders, last year, they ranked number 3 in score rate on their opening drive. In 2023, the prior year, they ranked 28th. Now, we know the offensive coordinator was different, Eric Bieniemy versus Kliff Kingsbury. We know, more importantly, the quarterback was different, obviously. And now you don't have Sam Howell anymore, and whoever else, you have Jayden Daniels. But to make that massive of a leap from number 28 to number 3 just helps the overall mentality of the team. And so for Kliff to call smart plays early in games to rank 3rd best with a rookie quarterback in score rate on opening drives of games is absolutely phenomenal. And then you look at first half of games, and their score rate was 9th best on drives in the first half, 5th best in terms of their touchdown rate in first half of games. So I thought that was extremely impressive. There are things that obviously they need to improve upon, and there was a little bit of a lull, and everybody was talking about the fact that Terry McLaurin's always lined up on the same side, and what are you going to do offensively? And defenses are starting to figure him out a little bit. I think in part some of that did relate to the fact that they were down some weapons. If you look at like an Austin Eckler, for example, Austin Eckler was a factor for this team last year from a creativity perspective and what they were using him in doing. And he was out for a number of games and dealing with injuries. You guys had the 6th most injured running back room in the NFL last year. You ranked average at 17th in health of your wide receiver room as well as your tight end room. So your threats out there on the field beyond Jayden Daniels did get banged up a little bit. And obviously Terry McLaurin was the standout receiver for you guys. The other guys don't strike fear into a single defensive coordinator, right? Like no defensive coordinator is going to say, we got to figure out Zacchaeus. What are we going to do about Zacchaeus? Oh, Dyami Brown. Like, let's figure out how we can cloud coverage to slow down Dyami Brown or something like that. So that was not a factor. Obviously, Noah Brown was playing a little bit better before he went out with injury, being utilized a little bit more. I think it really helps Kliff to land a guy like Deebo Samuel this year. And I'm really excited about that addition to the Commanders. And it's primarily because many offensive coordinators, I don't think, would be able to utilize Deebo to get the maximum upside that I believe that Kliff and the Commanders will be able to get out of Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is a very different type of receiver than most receivers out there, who top receivers are going to try to beat you downfield, beat you man coverage, get separation down the field, get catch contested balls, and get yards after the catch that way. Deebo Samuel is the type of receiver who, the way that Kyle Shanahan was utilizing him, receiving the ball close to the line of scrimmage and leading the NFL in yards after the catch year after year after year at that wide receiver position. Now, Kyle is brilliant at drawing up pass plays that are easier for his quarterback to complete, but still resulting in high upside due to the yards after catch that's designed within those routes. But that's the same type of thing that I believe Kliff Kingsbury will excel at in DC with that horizontal rate offense at times. And I think that you're going to see the opportunity for them to finally have a true tandem at receiver that defenses have to account for, and be able to utilize Deebo Samuel in a lot of pre-snap motion, which will help shift coverage away from Terry McLaurin, help give McLaurin some better looks, which he was not getting last year. You'll be able to open things up for McLaurin before the snap even occurs with some of that pre-snap motion. And then you're going to be able to design some things that will, A, get rid of the ball from Jayden Daniels' hands quickly, which keeps him healthy, and B, offer a ton of yak upside, which is something like they looked for from Austin Eckler at times last year. Some of those design plays over the middle of the field that, you know, were clearly, though it looked like it was maybe the third option of this pass play, it clearly was the primary look that they were trying to do. And now you've got a Deebo Samuel involved in the mix who can be the recipient of those catches. I'm really excited about that.
You and your chapter on the Commanders addressed the team's run defense being a major weakness last season. An NFL team, of course, wants to be good at everything, but it would seem to me that in the modern NFL, offense matters more than defense, and pass defense matters more than run defense. How would you describe the significance of run defense in the current NFL?
Run defense is very much predicated on who you're going up against, so that's a big factor, but more and more teams are running the football. Rushing yardage this year, I want to say, accounted for a 6-year high in percentage of total offense for teams across the NFL. In other words, more teams were gaining yards through the ground than through the air than they had over the prior 5 years in 2024. Therefore, it's incumbent upon teams to figure out ways to slow down opposing rushing offenses. To me, the best and easiest way when you're dealing with a lack of personnel theoretically on the defensive side to stop the run effectively is the complementary aspect of football with your offense and just building leads offensively, which will then inherently force opposing teams to be unable to run the football in the second half of games like they might otherwise want to because they're trailing on the scoreboard. They have to get more desperate and more predictable and more pass heavy. So that's what you would be looking to do. So that's a way that the offense can help the defense. But absolutely, from a run defensive perspective, I think you guys were 31st in the NFL last year. That has to improve. The problem is the good news is you're in a division where, yes, the Philadelphia Eagles are one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL, but you are going up against the Dallas Cowboys, which I think might have one of the worst rushing attacks in the NFL this year. Not that they had a great one last year, but I think that their choice of running back in Javonte Williams is very problematic, and I think he's going to struggle this season. In fact, I liked betting the under in his total rushing yards this year as an NFL futures prop. And in addition, I think the Giants' rushing attack is not so great because their offensive line is very problematic. And so you're in a division where you don't have to have the best rushing defense if you're going to still notch wins in the win column. But overall, rushing defense is more important now than it was a few years ago when everybody was so pass happy and very few teams were leaning into the run. Now, the way most defenses are playing with the two high shells and keeping everything in front of them, you are unable to have drives that score explosive plays. I think I tweeted out and did some research that 26% of all touchdowns in prior years came from outside of the red zone, but over the last couple of years, it's down to only 21% of touchdowns are coming from outside of the red zone. And I had some other statistics that showcase the fact that teams are having to drive the ball longer with more plays and deeper into opponent territory before they're scoring touchdowns. And as a result, they are needing to run the ball more on a higher number of their plays because there's just more plays and the defenses are taking away some of the deeper hitting passes. And so they just need to be a little bit more balanced. And that's why rushing offense is important. And there's a bigger emphasis on being good in the trenches and having a decent offensive line where you can run the football if defenses are taking away the pass. And therefore, conversely, you need to have a stronger run defense to offset the fact that opposing teams might be running the ball on you.
Warren Sharp of SharpFootballAnalysis.com. His must-read book, The Sharp Football Analysis 2025 Football Preview, is out. Nearly 600 pages of in-depth analysis and commentary on all 32 NFL teams. And Warren is offering a tremendous deal to listeners of this podcast. You can get the PDF of the book at SharpFootballAnalysis.com for just $1 by entering the coupon code Washington. Warren, thank you. All the best.
Thanks, Al. I'm excited for your guys' season. Looking forward to watching how you guys do, specifically on fourth downs, but everything else as well. But always appreciate this conversation before the season gets started here, and good luck this year.
All right. Catering by Uptown provides catering to perfection. Whatever event you're planning, especially a wedding, visit cateringbyuptown.com. Mention that Al Galdi sent you and see what Catering by Uptown can do for you. Catering by Uptown provides both great service and a great price. Catering by Uptown is a family business. It's run by the Pereiras, who are great Commanders fans and loyal supporters of this podcast. Catering by Uptown specializes in handling everything so that you don't have to. Catering by Uptown understands that special events deserve to be celebrated in style and thus takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. Great service, amazing cuisine, and reliability are the foundation of what makes Catering by Uptown one of the most referred caterers throughout Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia. And know this, if you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can set up your own personal tour of one of Catering by Uptown's premier venues, including outstanding waterfront venues. Catering by Uptown offers the ability to coordinate services at over 100 of the best reception halls, vineyards, farms, historic homes, event venues, banquet facilities, and wedding venues in the area. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. We have arrived at the day of the 2025 MLB trade deadline, which is on Thursday, July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern, and the Nationals on Wednesday afternoon announced their second trade in what is expected to be a big-time sell-off. Now, the Nats on Wednesday afternoon also got ripped, a 9-1 loss at the American League West leading Houston Astros to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series. This was a game in which Miguel Cairo got ejected for the first time as Nats interim manager. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 44-64, second worst record in the National League, and the run differential is minus 110. Second worst run differential in the NL. The Nats late night this past Saturday night announced having traded utility man Ahmed Rosario to the New York Yankees for 2 prospects in reliever Clayton Beeter and outfielder Braum Martinez. And the Nats on Wednesday afternoon announced having traded relievers Luis García and Andrew Chafin to the Los Angeles Angels for 2 prospects and starting pitcher Jake Eder and first baseman Sam Brown. García and Chafin, 2 guys on expiring contracts, 2 in-season free agent acquisitions who the Nats turned into trade chips. The Nats on July 8th announced having agreed to terms with García on a 1-year major league contract. He, for the Nats, over 10 innings in 10 games, accumulated 0.4 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference in what is his age 38 season. That's really good. 0.4 WAR over just 10 innings. The Nats on May 1st announced having agreed with Chafin on a 1-year contract. This was the corresponding roster move to them on May 1st, designating reliever Cullen Poche for assignment. Chafin for the Nats had the following stats: 26 games, 20 innings, 2.70 ERA, 1.6 whip, 0.3 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference in what is his age 35 season. All things considered, pretty good. The whip was high, but the ERA was low. Now, these prospects who the Nats got from the Angels are not highly regarded prospects. Jake Eder was not among the Angels' top 30 prospects per MLB Pipeline, was the Angels' number 24 overall prospect per Baseball America. Sam Brown was not among the Angels' top 30 prospects per MLB Pipeline or Baseball America. But something is better than nothing. The Nats are in the midst of a terrible season. Interim General Manager Mike DiBartolo 100% should trade every Nats player on an expiring contract. This is like a going out of business sale. Something is better than nothing. In the lead up to this deadline, get something as opposed to nothing. First baseman Josh Bell, infielder Paul DeJong, starting pitcher Michael Soroka, closer Kyle Finnegan, all are on expiring contracts. All should be traded. Additionally, the Nats, because they have so many young outfielders, should be open to trading outfielder Alex Call, who has had a good season in part-time duty and is under team control through the 2029 season, but this is his age 30 season. As for another Nats player who has come up quite a bit regarding whether he should be traded, their ace, MacKenzie Gore. So he pitched on Wednesday afternoon, and he was not good. Gore allowed 6 runs in 5 1/3 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were 2 home runs and 6 singles. He issued just 1 walk, but he also issued a hit by pitch and 3 wild pitches. He recorded 4 strikeouts. He did throw a lot of strikes, 97 pitches, 64 strikes, just 33 balls, but the 2 homers were killers. Gore, in the bottom of the second, gave up a 2-out first pitch, 3-run homer by Jose Altuve to left field for a 4-1 Astros lead, and Gore in the bottom of the 6th gave up a 1-out full count 2 two-run homer by Cooper Hummel to left field for a 6-1 Astros lead. And that was it. Gore then got pulled from the game. By the way, the reason that Miguel Cairo got ejected was him standing up for Gore. But still, Gore was not good in this game. Third consecutive start in which Gore was off to some degree. The 8-1 loss to the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park on July 20th. Gore allowed 8 runs in 2 1/3 innings. The 1-0 loss at the Minnesota Twins this past Friday night, July 25th. Gore allowed 1 run in 5 innings, but he issued a whopping 6 walks and 2 wild pitches. Gore, since pitching in the All-Star game, in which he pitched well, a perfect top of the 5th on 9 pitches, has not pitched well. And Gore now for this regular season has an ERA approaching 4. 22 starts, ERA of 3.80, whip of 1.29. As for Josh Bell and Paul DeJong, so the Nats offense in this 9-1 loss at the Astros on Wednesday afternoon was quite bad. Just 1 run, just 5 hits, all of which were singles, 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. The Nats did work 4 walks, but Astros starting pitcher Ryan Gusto, he allowed 1 run in 6 innings with 5 strikeouts versus 1 walk. Ryan Gusto, he entered the game with an ERA of 5.18 over 23 games, including 13 starts in this regular season. This was another instance of the Nats inexplicably getting worked by a pitcher not having a good season. Josh Bell did get on base 3 times. He is the Nats starting DH and number 4 batter. Went 2 for 3 with 2 infield singles and a walk. Bell for this month of July has an OPS of 929. Paul DeJong, he is the Nats starting third baseman and number 6 batter, went 0 for 3 with a walk, and he committed a throwing error. And the Nats bullpen in this 9-1 loss at the Astros on Wednesday afternoon was bad. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 3 runs in 2 2/3 innings. Now, 2 of the relievers were good, but the first was not. Cole Henry, he allowed 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He in the bottom of the 6th faced 5 batters but got just 2 outs as he gave up a 2-out first pitch 3-run homer by Yainer Diaz to left field for a 9-1 Astros lead. But Connor Pilkington tossed a perfect bottom of the 7th with 2 strikeouts as he continues to do well. And Zach Brixey tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th. The Nats on Thursday afternoon announced having recalled Brixey from AAA Rochester. No game for the Nats on Thursday, what is 2025 MLB trade deadline day. Next up for the Nats is a 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against the MLB-leading Milwaukee Brewers at Nationals Park. Game 1 Friday evening at 6:45. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 4:05. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 1:35. Brad Lord will be the Nats starting pitcher.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/bluewire. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/bluewire, spelled BABBEL.com/bluewire. Babbel.com/bluewire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Well, if the Orioles are about to trade two fan favorites in Cedric Mullins and Ryan O'Hearn, we at least can say that those guys went out with a bang. The O's lost to the American League leading Toronto Blue Jays 9-8 at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Wednesday afternoon to end the Orioles' 5-game winning streak and to deny the O's a 4-game sweep. The O's in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 50-59. This was the Orioles' final game before the 2025 MLB trade deadline, which is on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. As we have discussed, starting pitchers Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton, and Tomoyuki Sagano, first baseman/outfielder Ryan O'Hearn, outfielder Cedric Mullins, all are on expiring contracts. All, in my opinion, should be traded. And Orioles executive vice president and general manager Mike Elias, in the lead-up to this deadline, already has traded 3 relievers in Brian Baker, Gregory Soto, and Sir Anthony Dominguez. Soto and Dominguez are on expiring contracts. Additionally, outfielder Ramon Laureano should be traded. He's under contract through next season via a team option, but he, to me, should be traded because his stock is never going to be higher. He's having a really nice season. Now, interestingly, Laureano did not start. He did come off the bench to play, but he did not start. This supposedly due to rest, but Ryan O'Hearn and Cedric Mullins did play, and each guy did well. O'Hearn, as the Orioles starting first baseman and number 5 batter, went 1 for 4 with a 2-run homer and a walk. O'Hearn for this regular season is number 1 among all qualified Orioles players at OPS at .837. Mullins, as the Orioles starting center fielder and number 7 batter, went 2 for 4 with a double and a single. And Mullins, in the top of the 6th, made a spectacular leaping, backhanded, home run robbing catch on a 2-out flyout by Ali Sanchez with a runner on second and the O's holding a 5-4 lead. What a catch that was by Mullins. Mullins, for this month of July, has an OPS of .868. The Orioles starting pitcher in this 9-8 loss to the Blue Jays on Wednesday afternoon was Dean Kramer. He allowed 3 runs in 5 innings. He gave up 6 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles, and 3 singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded 5 strikeouts. He did throw a good number of strikes, 87 pitches, 56 strikes, 31 balls. But Kramer, who had been pitching well, now has allowed 8 runs in 11 innings over his last 2 starts. And the Orioles bullpen in this 9-8 loss to the Blue Jays on Wednesday afternoon was not good. 4 Orioles relievers combined to allow 6 runs in 4 innings. Grant Wolfram, he allowed 1 run in 1 inning. He, in the top of the 6th, allowed a run on a walk and an RBI double. Yanier Cano allowed 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He, in the top of the 7th, allowed 5 runs on 2 singles, a 2-run single, a hit by pitch, and a 3-run homer. Man, Cano is not having a good season. Cade Stroud tossed 1 1/3 scoreless innings, despite giving up 2 singles and issuing a walk, and Andrew Kittredge tossed a perfect top of the 9th. No game for the O's on Thursday, what is 2025 MLB trade deadline day. Next up for the O's is a 6-game road trip beginning with a 3-game series at the Chicago Cubs. Game 1 Friday afternoon at 2:20. Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 2:20. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 2:20. The O's have not announced starting pitchers for the series, and there's no point. A bunch of their starting pitchers may be about to be traded. We'll see. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Friday show, episode 1124. We'll have much more on the Commanders. And on Friday's show, we'll talk Nationals and Orioles, reaction to whatever the Nats and O's do and or do not do regarding the 2025 MLB trade deadline, which is on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll talk to you on Friday.
Everybody's 0-0 right now. There's 32 teams that feel like they can win a championship, but you guys know, covering the game, there's only a handful of teams. I always say like 6 to 8, but it's really like 8 to 12 because there's some of those teams like the Commanders last year.
This son of a bitch.
I just said I was behind you. I saw the sign. That's what got me. I was just talking to Ty about the San Diego Chargers playing. When you're as old as I am, you played in so many different stadiums and against different team names.